Okay, so welcome to day 23, I think, of my New Year's resolution to try and get a tree planted every day of the year, 2023, here just outside Lusaka. Let's get on with it. So today's planting is, as far as I know, our first foray into Australian trees. There will be some more coming up, probably tomorrow actually, but this should be the first one this year. We don't have actually that many Australian trees. We have a lot of African and South American trees and a few Indian ones, but yeah. So today's is actually an Australian tea tree, which as far as I know is a swamp plant in its native habitat, or swamp or riverine. So I put it in an area that every year when it rains does tend to get quite wet, which is what was a bad idea when, before I really was thinking about these things, this is where I first started putting in a lot of big succulents that had outgrown their pots. I actually put a pond in to increase drainage for those same succulents, some of which are now doing fine, but this does get a certain amount of irrigation, so it should be easy enough to keep it going here. They are supposed to be quite tolerant of different soils, but I didn't want to put it on the absolute worst bit of soil which I'd originally thought of for it, because looking into its environmental requirements, I think that's probably a little bit too alkaline. It should be quite acid here, which should be reasonably suited to it. In with that, I'm putting a fence aloe. I thought it might be a Nieriensis, but I'm not convinced. We'll see when it flowers, but it should be one of the tetraploid East African aloes. And with that, I'm also putting in a couple of what I think is a Curio, which used to be in Senecio. It's a South African succulent in the daisy family, which should add a nice little splash of colour. You can see it's the same sort of colour as the Calyncophaginkoi, but with a very different leaf shape, and it contrasts, as does the Calyncophaginkoi, quite nicely against the Plectanthrus neochilus. It's about as water requiring as the Plectanthrus neochilus. That I'm more convinced will require some off-season water than the tea tree. But yeah, so that should be it for today. And tune in tomorrow when I think we'll be having another Australian native going in.